We are live. All right, everybody. We're gonna go on. We're gonna go on in about 10 minutes. This is just to have everybody help everybody usher in. And I'm going to share this stream on a few groups here.
Cool. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
Whoever's in, I don't know.
Start a watch party. Yeah, so this is like the new norm now, you know?
Yeah. Time to grab a glass of whiskey, though.
It's always a good time for whiskey.
Always time for whiskey. Now, were you in Taiwan before it all went down and you decided to stay, or did you go over there special?
I guess a little bit of both, you know. So we actually had a family sickness and a sickness in the family, and then so I had to leave, and then I realized that it wasn't. It was better off for me to stay here because they shut down everything. They shut down the offices and everything. So my office is shut down right now in Philadelphia. We're gonna get.
I hope your family member who's sick is okay.
We're going to get started in just about 10 minutes here. Just letting everybody know we're here. We're going to get started. We have Paul from Few Distillery here with us. And so sit back, relax, get comfortable. I'm just going to start a few streams here on some other groups.
Grab a whiskey, y'all.
Grab a whiskey, y'all. Is y'all a Chicago? It's not. People in Chicago don't necessarily say y'all, right?
No, it's more an affectation. My parents live down in the South, and I kind of picked it up from them. It's not really a Chicago thing, but I like it.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. Yeah. All right, so this is gonna be cool. We have Paul with us, and good times on the way. All right. We'll be starting in just a few moments, folks. Just a few moments. Sean in Philadelphia said he met you at the Twisted Tail in Philadelphia.
Oh, no. Yeah, we did an event, what?
A couple years ago, yeah. Sean, actually, I was there too. So I probably met you too.
Yeah, 2 years ago, probably. It could have been 3. No, it was 2.
Probably 2 or 3. Yeah. No, it was 2000. No, it was 2018. It was 2018 because later on that year I went and visited your distillery.
Yeah, so we met. It was in Rittenhouse Square, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, it was Center City. It was Old City. It was at the Twisted Tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Some people. Hey.
Yeah, so you can actually go to my page and you can see people comment and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was looking. There's I'm figuring this out. It's my first time on this software, so I'm a little dumb, but we'll get through
it. So you can see this. You can see the stream on our studio.
Yeah, there's the live comments thing here. I can see that.
Yeah, I followed y'all to Garage. Yeah.
Oh, that was epic. That was a hell of that's a bar right there. Holy crap.
That's a bar right there.
That's a bar. Holy cow.
All right, for those joining us, we're just going to be we're going to start officially in just a few moments. This is just kind of like the elevator music time.
Yeah, hopefully I played skee ball with you, Sean. I don't remember if I did or not, but alcohol played a role in my conduct that night. So
yeah.
All my friends are. Yeah, we did our Seder early, but I've got a bunch of friends still suffering through their Seders.
Suffer. So it's good.
And Patrick has asked about the PLCB reopening. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but you can get deliveries from Philadelphia Distilling, and they're shipping out Blue Coat gin as well as Few Spirits, which I think we were talking about that earlier with Alex. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit during the actual
show.
Because the silly things you got to do, but we do silly stuff. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, and it's very interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's so interesting what you guys do to the kind of loophole, I guess that's what that is.
Well, that's not really a loophole, but the rules are the rules. We just follow the rules.
Well, it's creative. It's creative. Yeah, it's creative. All right, so it's cool. So we have a special guest. I don't know if he's shy, but another gentleman by the name of Alex Chang, actually. And he actually started a distillery here in Taiwan. And it's the third whiskey distillery here. So he's like super small craft. So I invited him along. So maybe he'll ask some cool questions.
Cool. How you doing, Alex?
Yeah.
I had a great weekend with one of your fellow Taiwanese distillers a year and a half ago up in Sweden. We were on the Viking Line.
Sweden, really?
Yeah, they have the whiskey cruise up there. Oh, there's Alex. And Ian and I were stuck.
Yeah, Ian.
Yeah, right now we were 2 feet from each other, and we had a great weekend. Pouring off whiskey and having a good time.
That sounds amazing. But now he's actually moved on. He's moving on.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Where'd he go?
Well, he just left, so we don't really know.
Ah.
So he hasn't really said anything, but it was big news, after, over 10 years, I believe it was.
Yeah, he's so good, so talented, and such a nice guy too.
Yeah, he's such a humble guy too. He's very low key,
Oh, very much, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's very low key. He's not, out there to, brag or anything, All right. I think okay. So now I have so many chat windows open because I'm trying to share into like multiple groups and. All right. All right, I can get started in just a few minutes here, folks. Sean also says, I love Philadelphia Distillery. Had my 40th birthday there last year. I definitely need 2 more bottles of Few Rye. So you'll be able to get that, and then we're going to tell you how to do that.
Yeah,
they'll bring it to your house. Will they bring it to your house?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a whole other ball of worms, but it'll be really interesting now that they've opened up the barn door this wide Will Pennsylvania residents tolerate the barn door getting closed on them again? I don't know.
Yeah. So is that a new thing? Is that a new thing then for Philadelphia distilleries that they can deliver to your door?
Yep. So because they closed the liquor stores, they made it so that people can go ahead and deliver. You can order direct from certain Pennsylvania distilleries. It might be all. I'm not entirely sure. Might be a bit. People in Pennsylvania would know better than I do. All I know is that for sure, Blue Coat is shipping out Blue Coat gin, Vucare, their vodka, as well as the Few bourbon and Few rye. And they're selling the crap out of it because it's the only game in town.
I know, yeah. I mean, it's there's always opportunity, right? There's always like an angle. What's bad news for some, it's great news for others.
Yep.
And that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get started in just a few minutes. I might as well say that, right?
Yeah, I own the few jokes there.
You don't even know you're telling a few jokes until you say you're like, oh, I just made a few jokes. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Everybody get comfortable. We're gonna get started in just a few minutes here. All right, I'm sharing in a bunch of groups here. There's like 1,000,001 whiskey groups that I do. Uh-huh. Yes, Sean says yes. Local distilleries can deliver. All right.
Yeah, Blue Coat's doing FedEx shipments in state only, and I think they have some sort of delivery. Hey, Danny Smith is on. Danny knows.
We got Danny. We got some people are talking about wanting to buy a few bottles of Few. So, Danny can chime in a little bit later. Delivery to New Jersey. Is there? Because we do have quite a few people here, going out to Jersey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Your local store in Jersey can probably deliver Few, whatever their policies are. It's just in Pennsylvania with the shutdown of the liquor stores, they're doing different things.
Yeah. Somebody also asked in another group here, do you guys offer cask strength? Yes. Well, we were just talking about this 101. I think that was right.
Our single barrel whiskey program's at 101 proof, which is not cask strength. We've released cask strength in the past. I'd never say never, but we're not.
Yeah,
we're not intending on it. You never know.
Never say never.
What's happening is friends of mine ask me for it, and I do it as favors to friends.
Yeah. All right. Let's do one more thing here, and we'll get started. All right. Well, Danny's on, so
go, Danny.
I wonder if Jenna is going to come on too.
I think so. And Oscar's pointing out that hey, Bob. Oscar's pointing out that Texas stores are open. Illinois stores are essential as well. And just to prove what a strange new world we all live in, Illinois marijuana stores are also essential, so you can go get your weed too.
Really?
It's a strange new world we have. Alex is asking what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Few Spirits Rye whiskey.
Few Spirits, of course. We're drinking Few Spirits, and this is
Exactly.
the topic of the day. So let's talk. Let's get it going. All right,
Woo!
I'm gonna put it right here so people can see the bottle. Actually, I should put it over here so that it's the covering. It's annoying because the camera is always backwards, and and I never know like how to position things sometimes.
My mom wants me to wants me to make T-shirts and have my logo deliberately reversed. So reversed, it looks cool.
Yeah. All right. So thanks everybody for joining us. We have a few people, and people are going to be able to watch this broadcast later on as well if you're not able to join the live here. But what's great about the live for people is you can ask questions and you can interact with us, right? And so we do have Paul. I'm gonna try to pronounce your last name, and I might butcher Hletko.
Hey, you got it. Nice work.
Oh shit! Yes, nice, awesome. Okay, so we have Paul Hletko. He's the owner and distiller at Few Spirits in Chicago, and they just won World Whisky Awards this year's 2020 World Whisky Awards best flavored whiskey, which is the cold cut, which is cut with cold brew coffee, and the best American vatted whiskey.
Well, you want it for blended. I just don't like the word.
Yeah. So the category was best American blended whiskey, but there's some negative connotations sometimes people feel about blended, so we like to use vatted. But it is a great whiskey, and it's a vatting of several of the expressions at the distillery. So Paul, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just say hi to everybody.
Yeah. Hey everybody, my name is Paul, and I apologize for the blinding glare of my light. We're all in home offices these days, and so I'm in my home office too. So apologize, but what have you. I started a small distillery coming up on 9 years ago almost, and called Few Spirits. Small grain to glass, primarily a whiskey distillery, although we make a little bit of gin as well, and all grain to glass. We are what we think people define as craft spirits, made by hand by us in our distillery. We mash it, we ferment it, we distill it, we barrel it, we age it, we harvest it, we bottle it. Grain comes in, bottles of whiskey go out.
Do you guys hand label everything too? Do you guys?
It's partially hand labeled.
Okay.
So you're holding it right there. The top strap right there.
Yeah. So
that's hand.
That's handwritten, right?
Yep.
So.
And then that top strap going over the cork is hand applied as well.
There you go. Okay. So true craft.
Yeah. Front. We do a machine from front and back label. But we are handcrafted. Small batch. When we started up, we were doing a full almost 3.5 gallons of whiskey a day. As compared to a lot of other distilleries are doing 100,000 gallons a day. We were doing a little over 3 gallons a day.
Okay.
Yeah, we've grown a little bit, and we're a little bit bigger now, but we're still small. Vincent is asking, vatted equals blended. Come see, come sa.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Blended often implies that you neutral spirits, which we do not.
Yeah, in America, yeah.
And so I prefer the word vatted because that implies no vodka. But it can be a little bit of a challenging. Terminology means a lot, and using the proper terminology doesn't always convey the proper facts. So we try to be as clear about what we do as we realistically can. So for the word vatted, even though it's strictly speaking blended.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at a picture of kind of our front door.
Yeah. So
yeah, the distillery itself is down an alley.
So this is cool because when I went there to the distillery, I was like looking around. I was like, where the heck is this place? And then I went into a store front and I was like, this is the address, I think. and then I asked him, I was like, where do you guys know where this distillery is? And he's like, oh yes, it's around the corner. You have to go down the dark alleyway.
Very true.
And so this is what we're looking at here is the actual front of the distillery down an alleyway, and I think it really adds to the charm of the whole kind of craft thing. And tell us about the name because it's kind of like a tongue in cheek kind of thing. Few is actually the initials of somebody special in Chicago, where the distillery is. Tell us a little about this place. Tell us a little about the name, Paul.
So we're strictly speaking, we're in a suburb of Chicago called Evanston. The distillery, what you're looking at right there, is just about a mile north of the city limits. So it's not in the city, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, it's not quite in the city. Take the subway just a little bit there.
Yeah, it's in the city. Yeah, we're on the subway lines. Actually, you can sort of see the subway just to the left of that picture there. Not really, just there's a little bit of crack. That's the train line. But what's interesting about being in Evanston is that it's the birthplace of the entire Prohibition movement. And the women that drove the entire Prohibition movement forward across the U.S. Lived in Evanston, just about a mile north of the distillery. And her name was Frances Elizabeth Willard. And so a lot of people see a similarity with her initials and our name, although it is, of course, a complete and total coincidence. What few really just means is that we don't make a whole lot. We're a small distillery. We only make a few bottles.
Okay, so it's coincidence. Okay, then I read that wrong.
Share in total. There's also an elementary school here in town named after Miss Willard. So we would never name a distillery after an elementary school because that'd be poor taste.
So it's kind of Few is kind of just a name that you came up with to say, hey, we're making just a little bit. It's kind of very special, very small batch, and we're gonna drink a few or have a few drams, kind of thing.
You don't need too much to drink. You just need a few. You can go home and tell your husband, tell your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, "Oh, baby, I didn't have too much to drink. I just had a." There's only you only need a few ingredients for a cocktail.
Yeah.
I've got a few of these I can go on all night.
Yeah. And so tell us about what you did in your past life.
So my past life.
And how did you get into this craft scene? Because you kind of were right there in the midst of this craft whiskey boom, right? So now we literally have thousands, over a couple thousand craft distillery that just popped up in the United States over the last 10 years. It's amazing. I think it's a great thing for the economy. I think it's a great thing for us whiskey drinkers and spirit drinkers. And I'm really excited to see places like Few coming up and winning awards and just really even putting American whiskey on the map globally, right? And also challenging the entire whiskey market to do interesting things, right? Like who's, your big producers, they're not the first ones jumping in making cold cut whiskey, right? They're, they're not making these really awesome gins like your breakfast gin, all this stuff. And so it really sparks innovation, craft whiskey. And I think there's a bright future. There's a bright future. And why don't you speak a little bit on that, Paul?
Sure. I mean, when we started up, certainly we did not invent this whole craft spirits thing.
Right.
But we were pretty damn early. Let's give credit where credit's due, and look at Philadelphia Distilling, for example. they were OGs in this business. They invented
Oh yeah.
American dry gin. I
Yes.
did not. But I went very early, and like when I started, we started a few. There were maybe somewhere between like 25 and 30 people in the U.S. doing whiskey from scratch by hand. It didn't exist. There were the 7 classic distilleries in Kentucky, and that's really about it. We started up. You'd be like, craft whiskey. What is? I've never heard of craft whiskey. What does that mean?
Yeah, right.
Craft spirits? Can you do that? That's not a thing, is it?
Yeah.
So I mean, the world has really fundamentally changed just in the last 10 years because of that. Now there's distilleries all over the place, and I think that's overall a good thing because it gives the drinker more choice.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
and especially at this point, the quality of some of the craft distilleries, we're we're competitive with the quality of everybody, and it gives you additional choice because our stuff doesn't taste the same as everybody else's. So
Right.
I think that's a good thing, and being kind of at the center or epicenter of the whole craft spirits movement has been really exciting. We're all friends, at least all of the
Oh yeah.
distilleries that are of any size whatsoever. We're friends.
Yeah.
I was a founding member of the trade association, the American Craft Spirits Association. I was in the room when we started it. I was an original board member. I'm the former president. Used to run the ethics committee and wrote the ethics statements for the craft spirits industry. I've been lucky enough to be able to give back to this amazing field of craft whiskey,
Yeah.
and I've been very lucky to be a part of it because it's given me a lot, and I keep on trying to keep on giving back.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I would think we've had conversations about how much time you spent in this industry and promoting and helping helping the organization American Craft Distilling Association. Is that what?
American Craft Spirits Association, ACSA.
American Craft Spirits Association. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's been really fun, but like all things, few kind of started, with one poor choice after another. I tell it's not my first to go around based on the color of my beard, and I probably had a little bit of a checkered life.
Yeah.
What really gets me excited and gets me moving and up in the day is creating and making new things,
Yeah.
new products, new this, new that. Making stuff gets me excited. I was a pro guitar player in a previous life.
Oh, there you go.
I used to design and build guitar effects pedals.
Nice.
Making stuff is what gets me excited. And so I was just kind of lucky enough that I was able to find this whiskey world where, people seem to think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, yeah. So you're a guitar player. Do you ever play guitar to your barrels, like people sing to their plants kind of thing?
I have in the past. Actually, just with this whole quarantine thing, I had to go out and buy a. This is going to get super geeky, and if you're not into music, but my Marshall stack.
Oh, okay, nice.
It's I had to just go out and buy a power soak so I could play it. I haven't been able to play my amp in 10 years, but I just got an attenuator, and so my been super excited because my amp lives again.
Oh, nice, nice. Um, so you guys are primarily a whiskey house, right?
Yep.
What was the first expression? Did you guys start making whiskey right away, or was it kind of gin and then you let your whiskey age and then you came out with your whiskey? How did that go about? How did that start out?
Well, we've always been grain to glass, and we knew we were always
Yeah.
going to be grain to glass. So we started off making whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
made whiskey for as long as we could, and then we started making gin so we could sell something.
Okay.
So
okay, so it was gin. It was whiskey at first. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, so whiskey was sitting in barrel when we started making gin.
Yeah, yeah,
And we love making gin because it's really fun.
yeah.
It's very creative. There's almost no rules. You can go from a concept to a bottle really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to age it for years. So,
Mm-hmm.
we can go from, hey, I've got an idea for a gin, make the gin, and you can have it on the market in 2 to 3 months.
Oh, okay, yeah.
4 or 5
And then
years.
so in this market, we're obviously so obviously a lot of other craft distilleries have the same idea, and so a lot of them are making vodka and gin, and we don't fault them because you gotta pay the bills, right? And
Right.
while you wait for your whiskey to mature and be ready to bottle, you have to have some cash flow, right? So people are and because of that, we're seeing this like huge movement in the gin world. Um, and your gins are fantastic gins. I really love the breakfast gin, and so tell us a little bit about your gin, and we're primarily whiskey, but I'm actually really getting the gins nowadays myself, just because there's just so much of it, and I'm really interested in learning more about it. But tell us about like your gin making process. Like, are you using the same kind of grains that you're using to make your whiskey? How are you getting the inspiration to make things like breakfast gin? And what makes your gin special and so popular?
So, like you were saying, like we really are a whiskey distillery. And so
Yeah.
we make our gin differently than everybody else. We actually make our gin from White Dog whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So our gins are going to be
The rye whiskey or the bourbon or
it's a different bourbon. So it's not bourbon because it doesn't go in a barrel, but our
the
gin
bourbon mash bill? Yeah.
it's a bourbon mash bill.
Okay.
If you put it in a barrel, it would be bourbon.
Yeah.
Although we distill it differently, but it's a bourbon mash bill.
And are you guys distilling? What do you got? How high ABV of an ABV are you distilling your gins to?
The final or for the low wines.
Final.
Final comes out about 90%, so it's still pretty low, for at least for
Okay.
gin. I wouldn't bottle a whiskey at 90%, but
Right.
we're not making whiskey.
And then your new make off the still.
Yeah, so our new make is coming off about 90%. New make, the low wine's coming off for the gins is about 130.
Okay.
So a good
Okay.
whiskey proof for the low wines. But then we redistill it into gin, which is what it is. But what the effect of that is that you end up with a very different gin. And so I think a lot
So
of
you're
people,
so this you guys are redistilling, right? You guys are redistilling with the botanicals, right?
yep.
Which is I think the right way to do it. So you're getting the essentially low wines, and then you're redistilling it, and the proof is coming out lower.
Well, no, the low wines will start off about 130, and the high
Uh-huh.
wines will be about 180.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so your high one's about 180, and then you're going to bottle at about 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get
Okay.
a sweet, approachable gin that is
Yeah.
very different than a lot of other gins on the market. And, that's not a slam on other gins, but it
All
is,
right.
it's just different. It's very approachable, and for a whiskey drinker, a whiskey lover, it can be a fantastic gin because
Yeah.
it is, it's whiskey at its core. It's soft, it's
No.
light, it's sweet. And then,
Yeah.
you were talking about the breakfast gin, which is, again, it's a wheated bourbon mash bill.
Okay. Weeded
A
bourbon. Okay.
very simple botanical build.
Your
Juniper,
normal bourbon is not weeded, is it?
correct. Our normal bourbon is a rye, high rye.
Okay. All right. So this is interesting. This is a different mash bill. It does have wheat in it in the breakfast gin.
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. You go on, please.
So then the botanical build of the botanicals that build the gin from, of course, juniper, because it's gin, you have to use juniper, but
Yeah.
also Earl Grey tea, and then just a little kiss of lemon peel.
Okay. So just 3 botanicals?
3 botanicals. It's the simplest build we make.
Okay, nice.
But it works and it carries the flavor. And
Yeah.
in particular, I think the Earl Grey tea is just really magic.
Yeah. Well, Brian here is just answered his question because he asked, "What are the botanicals in breakfast gin?" There's 3.
It's simple, but it works. And
Simple is best. I think sometimes simple is best. You know, it's like sometimes gins you have, like 20 different botanicals, and it can be good, but it can also be good with just 3 botanicals.
right. It's just simple, and I think if anybody out there is a real gin nerd, I know we're mostly whiskey here, but if you're a gin nerd, the interesting thing about that botanical build is that there's no bittering agents. Virtually every gin out there is going to use coriander or orris root or wormwood or something to bitter. The breakfast gin doesn't use any bittering agents. All we do is over extract the tannins from the tea leaves. That gives it's not really bitterness, although it gives it a little bit of it gives it some of the depth that you might get from bitterness, but it's not bitter. Which is cool.
So just a quick kind of breakdown is you're taking your bourbon mash bill, some of it's even weeded, redistilling it with the botanicals, coming off at about 990 proof, which is even slightly lower than some. Is it exactly at what? I'm sorry. Is it exactly at 180?
No, it's closer to 182, 183.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so maybe around
off at 94. We're coming off. Starts at 94 versus finishes at 80 or 91.
90 something.
Different.
Just a little bit that makes difference because you're leaving just a little bit more flavor in there, right?
Yep. I think the big thing is also the texture too. It's that, yes, it's flavor, but it's also a texture, and you can still get some of that graininess in the breakfast gin.
Yeah. All right. So people love your gin. Everybody check out the gin. The breakfast gin is my personal favorite. So let's talk about the main attraction here. And I'm going to pour a little bit of this. So this is Few Rye, and I got this a few years ago. And this is like this is batch number 16. So it's probably about 4 to 5 years ago that I've had this. And actually and I love it. And then, so it's been here actually in Taiwan with me for a while, actually. And I'm going to pour it. And then, so tell us about so you guys start making rye or bourbon first? And tell me about the progression of how you guys were making whiskey, 9 years ago, and what has changed now. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
feedback.
Things change, and so fundamentally, once we kind of arrived at our recipe, the basics haven't changed, although we've really gotten, we continue to refine and build on our techniques, and we've gotten much better, and we get better every day at making whiskey. And so that's been really interesting to watch. And as we continue to improve and refine our techniques, it just gets better and better. And the whiskey we're putting down today is better than we've ever done. And the whiskey we're releasing today is better than we've ever done. We continue to get better and better. But even like, looking at the bottle you have there, back then we were, Whiskey Advocate Magazine's Craft Whiskey of the Year with the rye whiskey. Even before we continue to get, even before we got better and better, we've always been a world-class distillery making world-class rye whiskey.
Yeah. So rye was you went into this saying, I'm going to make some great rye.
I went into it we're going to make some great bourbon and some great rye.
Okay, and rye. Okay.
Rye was certainly increasing in popularity when we started. And it continues to be increasing in popularity too. But look at that. The rye market was still underdeveloped. Again, we're looking at we're looking basically 10 years ago, 11 years ago. There wasn't really a lot of rye on the market. You had Redemption was started up like right around then. Not a lot of rye was out there. You had Sazerac rye. You had Rye One.
Yep. Now everybody's coming out with rye. Rye is like rye again is like, the gin. It's like it's really making a huge and strong comeback.
Yep. And so it's been real. It's real exciting to kind of be at the forefront of this rye evolution, if you will.
There you go.
But there's great, it's all about making great whiskey, and we're trying to make great whiskey. We try to make sure that it tastes a little bit different than everybody else's. Since we make our own, there's no reason to make it taste like somebody else's.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
We're talking about few rye, and so if you look at the universe of rye whiskey out there, it's pretty much all either 95 or 100% rye. That's what MGP makes and Alberta Distillers makes. Or it's 51% rye. The big guys primarily make is 51%. A few rye is 70% rye, 20% corn, 10% malt. And so you kind of right in between, which gives you that rye spice that you want in a rye whiskey. But it also, with 20% corn, gives you a little bit of sweetness to go up against that spice. And then we use a wine yeast on the ferment, so you'll get some kind of fruit notes in the mid to the finish. Jammy stone fruit, plums, pears, tart cherries, all in the mid to the finish.
Yep. And then you mentioned the yeast there. Tell us about like your yeast selection process and like how'd you guys come up with that? I think you can tell us what kind of yeast you guys use, right? And tell us how does yeast for you in your mind affect your overall product, and what kind of role it plays in your overall whiskey making process.
Well, I mean, for us, we're all about the yeast.
All
about
the yeast.
We're all about the yeast, and our belief is that since you actually make the alcohol with the yeast, probably a pretty important part of the flavor of the alcohol.
Yep,
it's how you actually make it.
Yeah. That's how it's created. Yep,
that's how you make it. So the yeast makes a difference. And so,
you went in just saying this is what we need to focus on. So you already had an inclination that when you started your distillery, your yeast was going to be very important.
Yeah, I mean, I was a home brewer for 20 years prior to this.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Okay, I didn't know that.
So it's yeast in beer is basically like, it's not even a one-on-one because it's just so basic to beer that, of course. But then you go to the distillers, and distillers are like, oh no, fuck it, we're going to put in a super start, and we're going to get 21% for our wash, and it'll be super efficient. I don't like how super start tastes. If you're taking away all the flavor, because you're making vodka, well then why not? Use super start, of course.
Yeah.
But we're making whiskey. We're not. We're keeping all that flavor. So let's make sure that the alcohol itself tastes good. White Dog is delicious. Maybe, but our White Dog is delicious, and I think that's really different.
And sorry to cut you off. And I think when you mentioned that you're a 20-year homebrew, 20-year plus experience homebrewer, I think that's such a key thing there, because you have that kind of foundation and you understand the importance of yeast and fermentation and things like that. And so it's about getting to the final product and the kind of ritual of getting there, right? And instead of, I think some distillers might think let me just get that alcohol, right? Respecting the process, I think, is a very important part of making great whiskey. And I visited tons of craft distilleries, and I think what really makes yours special is that respect for the process.
Yeah,
Go
I
on.
mean, I think there are, there are as many great ways to make great whiskey as there are great whiskeys. I don't think that one way is per se better than the others,
Yes.
but there are ways that are more true to a personal vision. And so there's nothing wrong with taking, there's nothing wrong with taking a relatively low grade spirit, tossing it in a barrel, and aging it for 15 years or 20 years. And you get rid of all those off flavors over 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what we're doing. That's not how we're making our whiskey. It's not a bad way.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing it, but that's not me.
Yeah.
And that's the joy of craft distilling, is that all of these, few is no different than everybody else. Like, we have our own view and our own vision on what we want. And as the owner, you can make that vision come true.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it great, is that my vision's different than, we're talking about Alex and his new distillery in Taiwan.
Not me. The other
other
Alex
Alex.
Chang.
And I'm giving you praise. I'm not slamming you, but your vision for that distillery is different than mine, and my vision is different than yours, and that's what makes them both great.
Yeah.
We're doing the things we want to do and doing them different than other
diversity.
Yeah. I mean, Alex, you didn't ask for my advice, but don't copy Kevlar. They already make it. They make great whiskey at Kevlar. Don't copy what they do.
No, they're actually doing some really interesting stuff. That they actually just won best grain whiskey because they make a rice whiskey.
Their stuff is so freaking good. It's
you mean Kevlar? Yeah.
Kevlar, yeah.
It is very good. But our friend Alex from Holy Distillery is making rice whiskey.
Awesome.
Yeah, very different. So just to, but I had this picture here earlier. Oh, I just cut you off. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
And when we talked, one of my questions was how has your process changed? From like 10 years ago versus now. And obviously, barrel size is kind of a natural progression for craft distillers to go from smaller barrels to larger barrels, and from smaller stills to larger stills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us about the decision to use smaller barrels, and now you're all at 53s. And how has that changed your whiskey? And do you like it better in the 53s? Is it a better taste profile for you? You feel tell us how you feel about the barrels and everything.
Sure. So we started off with 5-gallon barrels. We moved into 15s, moved into 30s. Now we're doing, we haven't put down whiskey in anything but a 53.
So you guys started with 5, okay?
Yeah, we started with 5s.
Okay.
And it's another one. I think a lot of it is learning, and a lot of it is, a lot of it's frankly business too. The 5-gallon barrel costs basically the exact same as a 53-gallon barrel.
Yeah.
So therefore, the 5-gallon barrel is about 11 times more expensive.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Very, it's very. That's reality.
That's reality, and that's real money.
Yeah.
The 53 is also a lot more forgiving. You can make you can make great whiskey in a 5-gallon barrel, but you got to time it perfect. If you miss your cycle, you're in trouble, and your whiskey's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
So you got to watch those 5s. 15s, a little bit more forgiving. 30s are pretty forgiving, and 53s, very forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
That the surface area to volume ratio in a 5.
Yeah.
If you miss your window, you've got a over oaked whiskey real quick, and it can be as quick.
Yeah, yeah.
It can be 4 or 5 days, and it's fundamentally different.
Okay, okay. Even by days.
Even by days, you miss it, you're in trouble. So they're
Mm-hmm.
very expensive and very unforgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's
How do you so how do you feel about your product when they were in 5s, 15s, and now 53s? Do you drink the ones in your 53s and be like, oh, I wish I had, I really like the 15s, or I really like the 5s, or they're all different in your opinion, or
I think it's all we've been able to maintain a lot of consistency. I think
mm-hmm.
um, I really like the wood influence in the 5s, but it
Mm-hmm.
can be a little astringent. Uh,
Yeah.
the 15s and the 15s the same way. The 30s you get a fantastic balance of
Mm-hmm.
size and wood influence, and then the
Mm-hmm.
53s you get fantastic complexity. It just takes.
Okay. Okay. Did you
Um,
ever, so one thing I always thought about was, I don't think I ever see many people do it, but purposely having 5s and 15s and 53s and using, kind of like cognac distillers, they use like some certain casks, or like are their sweet casks, and then they blend that with the rest of their batch to kind of give it that little bit of the oak, or the flavor and whatnot. Have you ever thought about that?
we've done a pretty decent amount of that, especially as we're managing the transition
Oh, really? Okay.
between 15s and 30s and 53s. It can be a little different for American whiskey
Mm-hmm.
because of some of the labeling rules.
Uh-huh,
Uh,
uh-huh.
so, for example, for bourbon, it has to all be new barrels, and you can't rebarrel it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, a lot of the stuff that you can do in cognac, you can't do here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, and that's okay. I'm not complaining, but
yeah,
there's certainly stuff that you can do elsewhere that you just can't do with American whiskey, or you can't do with bourbon, more accurately. Um,
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, we love the 53s. Great flavors, a great balance. It's forgiving, great quality. All
yeah.
of our wood, we use a different cooper than a lot of people use.
Okay,
So all of our wood comes to us from Minnesota rather than from a little bit farther south. Um,
okay.
Changes the length of the growing season, which changes the grain of the wood, and the grain of the wood has an effect on the flavor, of course, because it's a little bit tighter. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a shot from our new rack house.
yeah. So these are actually your barrels over here. These are the actual barrels in your rack house.
Yep.
And
So yeah, you're staring kind of down the barrel of some of our experimentals.
uh-huh,
They're
uh-huh.
kind of being flanked by our core whiskeys.
Gotcha. Well, can you tell us a little about these experimentations?
I
Experiments?
don't remember what those are.
Okay.
I just know they're experimentals.
Okay.
um, yeah,
Are you
I'm not trying to hide it from you, but I don't.
okay? You forget. Are you doing any kind of experiments in terms of like using sherry, or like port, or some of these other wine casks and things like that? Is that you guys are doing that?
We have a lot of barrel finishes down. Um,
The pipeline.
yeah, so ranging from port, vermouth, rum.
Ooh, ooh.
Um, we've got we got some 100-year-old barrels from our friends at Teeling.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've got 100-year-old Irish whiskey barrels that we're using. We've got Copper and King's brandy barrels. We've got tequila barrels.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
some of you might have seen our collaboration we just did with.
Oh, there you go. Jason just said collaborations.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Alice in Chains, we worked with that band and we released a bourbon finished in tequila barrels.
Huh. Okay.
Really good. So I think for the most part, it's sold out in most places, but you can probably still find bottles here and there.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
that was really good. Um, we have a lot of different finishes down. We've got different wood finishes down. We've got some Spanish oak barrels. We've got French oak barrels. We've got hybrid barrels. We've got um, what ISC calls their wave stave barrels down.
Nice.
Um,
Nice. Nice.
the wave stave is interesting. We're jury's out on that one, but
Well, so we talked about finishing. I think it's a perfect time to segue into your award-winning whiskey, the Cold Cut whiskey. What was the inspiration with that whiskey? When you drank it, were you like, oh my God, this is, World Whisky Award winner right here. and tell us about, the process there, and like, were you just amazed with how it turned out, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so it turned out really well. And, basically it all started off with the pure fact that I drink more coffee than any person should drink. I drink a lot of coffee.
What kind of, well, so my family, so I have family in the coffee business. So, just a side kind of question. Do you like to drink like, Dunkin' Donuts coffee, or do you like to drink like single origin, like some specialty coffees, or you're just like a Folgers guy, or?
No, actually Dunkin' Donuts is actually a pretty solid cup of coffee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My favorite coffee is a local roastery here called Passion House.
Okay.
We work with for Cold Cut. But I love it's, basically I like black. And as I've gotten older, I'll admit that I'm moving away from the dark roast into the much more light roast.
Okay.
But I drink a lot of coffee, and so Cold Cut kind of started off with me trying to get my two great loves of whiskey and coffee together. And we tried a couple of different concepts of coffee and whiskey, and this Cold Cut is the one that actually worked the best.
Very interesting. So there was experimentation there and trial and error.
And trying to find the right cold brew and the right intensity, and making it work. It's a lot of work to make a product like that.
Yeah.
Pardon. But then when we drank it, we're like, this is perfect. It starts off, it's all whiskey. Okay. It starts off all whiskey, kind of coffee comes in with a second sip. Third sip is all coffee. Fourth sip is coffee and whiskey. Fifth sip is all whiskey again.
Okay.
And it kind of ebbs and flows.
And then the sixth and tenth sip, and you're asleep.
It works, and it's not gimmicky. There's no sugar added. There's no chemical. There's nothing you wouldn't feed your mother. It's just nice. It's simple. It's 93 proof, so it's a real whiskey. It's not like the 60 or 70 proof liqueurs that are out there. It's pure whiskey.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What would you say the proof again was?
93 proof.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So it's real. You got to respect it. Otherwise, it'll sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Jason Hines asked about mezcal barrels. We're trying. Mezcal really isn't barrel aged that much. So for the most part, mezcal barrels are barrels that somebody did primarily to create something to finish whiskey in.
Oscar, Oscar right below said something amazing that I don't think I've ever tried before. Rye finished in Madeira casks. I think that sounds delicious to me. Good suggestion, Oscar.
We got Madeira casks. We've got Sauternes going.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. You did. That's awesome.
We got a lot of stuff.
Oh, wow. So are those going to be like special release at the distillery only? Because I'm sure experimental barrels, you don't have like 1,000 bottles to like distribute throughout the United States. Where can somebody find those bottles in the future?
I have no idea, honestly.
Okay.
Kind of make it, and I don't have an intention for what we're going to do with it. It's there.
Gotcha.
What the most likely destination is whiskey clubs or single barrels for retailers, or collaboration with other distilleries or other stuff. So there's no real answers to where you'll be able to find it in the future.
Gotcha.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll have to talk about that then.
That's my. Let's talk to my marketing guys about that. I like to make stuff, and then they,
let them sell it. Let them sell it.
Yeah,
So
my
you're
marketing guy told me I was
so
looking
you're
crazy to sell it.
yeah. So your cold cut again. Can you tell us? Are you allowed to tell us like how much whiskey versus how much the coffee? When are you? How are you blending it, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. Like we
Okay.
don't have a lot of secrets.
Okay.
But like I said, cold cut is whiskey and coffee. So
Uh-huh.
it's all bourbon. There's no difference whatsoever in the
Okay.
bourbon from our core bourbon.
Okay. So it's your few bourbon. Okay.
It's the few bourbon. We just pull off some of our harvest and we use it for cold cut. But then instead of using water, so it's going to come out of the barrel about 122 proof, 122, 123, up around in there.
Yeah.
And we're going to bottle it at 93. And
Okay.
so all that gap is cold brew coffee.
Okay. No water. Is just cold brew and whiskey.
Cold brew and whiskey. I mean, obviously,
Okay.
cold brew is primarily water, obviously,
Right.
but we don't use any. We don't use any water that's not coffee.
Any sugar?
No sugar, no chemical, no byproducts,
Okay.
nothing that you can't pronounce that's not
Okay.
coffee. Um, no hot extracted coffee. So there's none of the
Yeah.
acid you'll get from hot extraction.
Yeah.
It won't rot your gut the way a lot of coffee rots my old man gut. Uh,
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
but
So no sugar at all. I haven't been
no
able to
sugar at
taste
all.
it yet, actually. So yeah.
Uh,
So maybe.
with cold brew, so you get cold brew has natural sweetness.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does.
Um,
Yep, it does.
it's maybe sweet's maybe not the right word, but you get some kind of nutty, chocolatey
Yep.
sweetness with cold brew just naturally, but
Yep.
no
Yep.
sugar.
Yep. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, very interesting. Because that's already different than most any kind of coffee spirit out there.
Right. It's not a coffee liqueur.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
obviously great
Yep.
coffee liqueurs out there, but few cold cuts not one of them.
Nice. Nice. So is this was it a one-off thing, or is it going to be a staple release?
We think it's a core. Um,
Okay. Okay.
our intention, again, it's a killer product that is delicious. We actually think it's going to be our number three seller inside of, by the end of this calendar year. I think it's going to be our number three seller.
Mm.
Um, I could be wrong. Um,
Number one and two is bourbon rye.
yeah, bourbon's number
Okay.
one. Rye is a somewhat distant number two seller.
Okay.
And then, then it falls all the way down. Cold Cut's doing very well.
Hmm.
Um, when we launched it, we talked to our distributor here and we told them the order that they should take, and they're like, no, we're not going to take that much. We're going to take 1/5 of that. We're like,
Okay.
okay, but get ready. Um,
Is this after
before
you,
it,
or this is before or after the award?
well, before,
Okay. All right. And then they called you like, hey, let me get some more.
yeah, because before it hit their dock, they had sold twice as much as they ordered
Okay. Okay.
just
Okay.
on pre-sales. Um,
Gotcha.
so it's been flying. Like we're selling it. We're selling it like hotcakes,
Yeah.
and so I think it's going to go very well. We'll
Yeah.
see how people really react to it. It's certainly becoming the world's best flavored whiskey. Can't hurt, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Being the world's best is a really nice thing. I
Yeah.
like being the world's best.
How do you
Uh,
like drink your cold coffee? Are you is it like a morning kind of splash in your coffee thing, or just still a little shot like an espresso in the morning? Or like is it more of like a kind of like a digestif, like you drink after dinner, or how do you envision? How do you see people drinking the cold cut?
well, for me, I'm primarily I drink most of my whiskey either neat or on the rocks.
Uh-huh.
Sitting having a whiskey in a Glencairn. Um,
Yeah.
so cold cut's no different. I will say
Uh-huh.
that it makes killer Manhattan.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. So in cocktails, okay.
in cocktails, it's fantastic in cocktails. Fantastic Boulevardier.
Yeah.
Um, most of our marketing material talks about adding it to coffee and espresso and so on, but that's there's coffee in it. I don't know why you add it to coffee. That's just me. Like it's not. I don't get it. Do something different with it. But it is a really good Irish coffee.
Yeah.
I did a whiskey dinner just before all this bullshit went down.
Yeah.
And they served the cold cut as a Irish coffee for dessert.
Okay, it's like after dinner.
Yeah, it was the best Irish coffee I'd ever had. And they just, instead of using cream, they used a mascarpone. And it was just out of control.
Because my wife makes tiramisu, so I might have to try that. I'm gonna try that, the mascarpone, right? Mascarpone is mascarpone. I'm not.
I don't know. Either way,
Yeah.
or I don't even just a little drizzle of the cold cut on top of the tiramisu.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Ooh. See. Oh wow. Yeah. Instead of using another spirit, use the cold cut with the coffee as a substitute. That actually sounds delicious, and it's actually very interesting.
Is it grappa that you put on tiramisu usually?
I think it's rum. I think it's normally traditionally rum. I could be wrong. No, I'm not a baker, but I think it's rum. But she makes it slightly elevated. It's she uses cognac. Ooh, it's fancy, right? And it's very interesting because yeah, just catch the next flight. Jason's confirmed. Yes, it's rum. So here, the picture here we have is the tasting room here. If anybody is, been to the Few Distillery here, and this is where you can get a bunch of the cool stuff. And I'm just gonna go over a couple pictures here.
Yeah, it's a tasting room.
Yeah, more tasting room pictures or casks.
There you go, some stills.
Here's some stills. Oh, you know what? I was gonna mention something earlier. Starbucks Reserve Roastery. There's this their like high end thing. I don't know if they have it in Chicago yet, but there is. Okay, yeah. So they actually do make cocktails in there. You know that?
Yep.
And when they make old fashions, they actually use espresso, or they use like instead of bitters, they use espresso.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Yeah, so it's very interesting. So it plays on what you were talking about, using cold cut for Manhattans, etc. Okay. Do we want to talk? So actually, do you want to talk about the stills, or do you want to talk about the? Actually, why don't you talk about the stills a little bit here? So these are the stills currently, right?
Yep.
Hybrid stills, right? We got the columns here. You can use it as a pot still as well, right?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the stills. How did you guys come up with picking these stills? Where are these stills from? Are these Carlsberg?
No, they're a company called Cota.
Okay.
Fantastic.
It's not Carlsberg. It's Carl. I think Carl's stills. I think it's Carl, right? Not Carlsberg.
Carlsberg is beer. The guy who designed these actually left Cota, and now he's at Carl.
Okay. Cota.
Cota. Great stills.
And like from Germany.
They're from Germany.
Okay.
And they returned my phone calls when we started up. When we started, craft distilling wasn't a thing. And still manufacturers wouldn't return your phone calls because they didn't want to do business with you if they weren't already doing business with you.
Interesting.
So, Vendome wouldn't talk to me. Carl wouldn't talk to me. Forsyth wouldn't talk to me.
Really? Oh, interesting.
And so it's not that they make bad stills; it's that they wouldn't deal with me. Cota would. So we have. And so on the left there, you've got our gin still. On the right is our whiskey still. You probably get a pretty good idea on the relative volumes of our sales based on the size.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't give you the full story because the still on the right runs 2 days a week, 2 shifts a day, 7 days a week, and the still on the left runs on average about once a week.
Oh, okay.
So just giving you an idea that we make a lot more whiskey than we make gin. But yeah, the hybrid stills gives you a lot of control, a lot of ability to shape the spirit coming off. And fantastic stuff. I mean, they're great control. Obviously, all copper, as you can see. And we're really happy with them.
Okay. All righty. Great. I'm trying to pull up a picture of your American whiskey, so I can also share that. So tell us, let me see it here. So these are the upgraded stills, and so I'm trying to see if I can share a picture of your stills before.
Yeah, if you look at our stills today, the only thing that's original to the distillery itself is that gin still, which is the one that was on the left. Literally every other piece of the distillery has been replaced.
Yeah. So business is good, and we got good. Here we go. So this is your original stills. So
yeah, that's the original setup.
Yeah, so much smaller.
Right? So the one on the left is, that's still there. That hasn't
still
changed
there.
At all. But the one on the right is very different, and you can see our mash tank even further to the right. That's long gone. You can see barrels to the left. Those are all 5-gallon barrels.
Oh, these are 5-gallon barrels.
Those are all way long gone. Like that picture was probably taken. That's probably taken in the fall, probably the fall of 2011. I think it's always drew me nuts about that picture is the hose that we forgot to remove from the.
Okay.
The thing that I see that nobody else on the planet sees is that hose just sitting there. It drives me nuts.
Oh yeah, I did notice that. Yeah. So these are larger stills are also Kota stills.
Correct.
Gotcha.
We do have we have a Vendome column still off to the right in the corner that you can't see in that picture.
Okay.
The 2 stills you see there are Vendome, or I'm sorry, are Kota.
Gotcha. And then so talk a little bit about the process since we're talking about distilling. You did mention use a wine yeast, right? It was a saison yeast, right? And fermentation wise, how long are you guys fermenting for? And then in terms of from you have your beer and your distillation, how long are you guys how long you said there's 2 shifts in the day, so I guess is that a run is like maybe going to be like, I don't know, 10 hours or something like that, or
yeah, we run we start up around 7 a.m. and we finish around midnight. 7 days
okay. 7 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. Okay.
Yeah, we're producing a lot more whiskey today than we used to.
Right.
Well, we're not producing anything today, but you got
yeah.
You know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, so small batch distillation. So we mash it, we ferment it.
How long is fermentation? How long? 3-day fermentation. Okay.
3-day fermentation. We massively over pitch.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways that fermentation is super important to us, and we know what we're doing. Yeah. So we control a lot of the inputs as well as the actual fermentation process differently than a lot of other distillers. So we do ferment really quick.
Yeah.
Like I said, we over pitch and we temperature control the ferment, which is pretty rare for distilleries. Again, we make the alcohol. We're making the alcohol, so we better make the alcohol taste good. And then we strip it through the column, and we finish it through the copper pots.
Okay. And the column is off to the side. We can't see the column.
Yeah, you can't see it in that picture right there. I mean, there's probably other pictures somewhere in that stash that I sent you, but you just can't see it in that picture.
Gotcha. Any other kind of things that you feel make your whiskey special through the distillation or the fermentation process, et cetera, et cetera?
I think that temperature control ferment's a big deal for us because again,
Yeah,
nobody else does it.
that
It's
is rare. Yeah.
it's beer 101, but distillers are like, oh no,
Yes.
you need temperature control. We
Yeah.
also agitate, which
You
is
also what?
also we agitate our ferments.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Okay.
so we ferment and distill on grain, and we use flour
Oh,
rather than cracked. So you end up with a slurry.
okay.
Because of that, while you're fermenting, if you don't agitate,
Yeah. And then, yeah, it gets, essentially
it gets
makes
all
it.
gets all thick and gooey at the bottom. So
Yeah.
we temperature
Here it is.
control. There's the column still.
Yeah, there's a column
Uh,
still.
so we agitate the temperature controlled ferments, which is very different than a lot of other people.
Okay, interesting. So I think really paying attention. So here's one of your staffers checking the fermentation. I guess those are your fermentation tanks,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah. So that's actually our beer well,
yeah.
uh,
Okay.
where we, uh, it looks like a fermenter, but that's not how we use it.
Okay.
Um,
This is
primarily,
holding tank.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically no one's pointing fingers, but somebody really fucked up when they bought that tank.
Really? Okay.
It was supposed to be a fermenter,
Uh,
but it's a terrible fermenter. Uh, it just will not work. And so somebody, i.e., me, fucked up when they bought it.
okay. Okay.
But it was real cheap, so I forgave
Yeah.
myself.
Okay. And I see your column here. You even have like little window up into the roof here
Yep.
as well. How
Yeah,
tall are your how tall is this column still?
it still is about 28 feet tall, and the ceiling's about 18 feet tall.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so you don't have to be too good with math to realize that those are not a good number. Um,
But-
Luckily, we knew about it ahead of time, so when it came time to install the still, we were all set.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that was a lot of all right. Well, what are we going to do with a 28-foot still in a 18-foot space?
Yeah, yeah. And I think this really also gives you, with your calm still, with your tall calm stills, your copper hybrid stills, it's you're getting just this very clean spirit here. And I think I think that, do you think that's a key component in your distilling process, having this great equipment?
I think it's a key part of it,
Yeah.
and we talk about clean, and a lot of that's
Mhm.
actually the ferment.
Yeah.
Because we're temperature controlled and all of that, we don't get a lot of heads and tails.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because our ferment is so clean, we don't get off flavors,
Mm.
and I
Okay.
think that's a big deal. Like our heads cuts and tails cuts are really narrow
Mm.
because they don't really exist. I mean, obviously, yes,
Hmm.
there's heads cuts and tails. I don't mean to
Hmm.
sound stupid. Uh, I do know what I'm sounding like, and it sounds stupid, but we don't get a lot of heads and tails, and
Hmm.
that's our fermentation process, and that's the
Yeah.
agitation, and that's the temperature control, and that's not letting it go too long, and
Yeah.
you know, all these things matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've had some, so even having the copper component, right, and being able to kind of scrub that spirit here, you do see a lot of craft distillers just using stainless steel, not much copper contact, which does clean up the spirit, and or they maybe they can't afford to have such a large still. It's just like a small still, whatnot. All that equates to different styles. I don't want to say bad, but you get a different product
Well,
entirely.
if you want a copper, you can end up with a lot of sulfur in your spirit. If
Yeah,
that's what you want, fuck yeah,
yeah,
that's great, man. You do you. I don't want sulfur in my spirit. That's okay. And again, that's okay. It's just not me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we want that. I want my dirt to come from cutting late at a super good quality ferment where you're really controlling the flavors that are in the alcohol, not just let it rip.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's temperature controlled, so our yeast never get stressed.
yeah.
Uh, we don't let the alcohol concentration get so high that they get stressed. We take good care of our yeast, well, at least until we boil them alive. But we
Yeah.
take good care of our yeast.
Yeah, and so I think just from this conversation, I learned a lot in terms of the care and respect that you have for the process, like I was saying, in terms of the yeast selection, in terms of just the fermentation, temperature control. You don't see much of that as with craft distillers, agitation, the equipment, and I think all of that contributes to why you guys are award-winning whiskey. And you don't have the American blended whiskey at home there, do you?
It turns out I do.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so I don't, I don't have it. And but I have tasted it. I have tasted it. And it was at the Brooklyn Bar Convent, and
That's
it was really good. It was really good. And yep, there it is. And why don't you? Well, so I don't. Well, can you share with us the tasting notes there? Um, and can you open? I don't know if you're going to open up or not.
well, it's hard to taste from through the screen.
Yeah.
I could
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we're going. So this is going to be like our little tasting component here, and then Paul's going to tell us like how what are some character. Well, so you were drinking the bourbon, right, just now?
I was drinking rye.
Okay, you were drinking the rye. So, and you know what? So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your tasting notes are for the rye, and what are some flavors and profiles that you get with that?
So for me, the rye is to me the real key in the rye is that it's good balance. Lots of spice, but I think that stone fruit really makes a big difference.
Okay,
I get a lot of pear.
a lot of
In particular,
pear.
yeah, today I'm getting a lot of pears. A little
Okay,
bit of cherry, not so much. I usually get more tart cherry. Today I'm not getting the tart cherry as much.
okay,
Um, but so then the American whiskey here is, like I said, a vatting of bourbon, rye, and then a third whiskey. So tasting notes in general, uh, spice, sweet, but then that third whiskey that we do in it is what I would call a smoke bomb.
mm,
And so in this whiskey, the smoke bomb expresses itself much more as texture than actual flavor.
okay,
So
okay. I get that.
you definitely get some smoky but subtle. It's not a smoke bomb. Like if you're
Mm-hmm,
looking
mm-hmm,
at Isla, you're not going to find this as like an Isla. It's just that's not what it
mm-hmm,
is.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But there's a
But
depth. There's a depth. There's a layer. There's complexity that adds to it.
yep, yeah, it's about 46% bourbon, 46% rye.
Yeah,
So only 8% of this third whiskey,
yeah.
but it makes all the difference.
And my impression of it was still very pleasant. It wasn't, so some people have this, oh, smoke, I don't like smoke or anything like that, but it's still a extremely pleasant whiskey. And when I drank it, I was like, this is really good. There's a lot of complexity here. And this is the 2020 World Whisky Awards best American blended whiskey of the year. So
Yeah, which is awesome. And there's some really good American blended whiskeys out there these days.
yeah,
Holdaway Company's got one. High West has one.
yeah,
Mick has one. There's
oh
some
yeah,
great American whiskeys. So us winning an award like that, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
Just to chime in here, Alex Chang, not me again. It's from Holy Distillery. He's because you talked about the heads, hearts, and tails cuts. You don't have as many. You're not cutting your percentage wise of the heads and tails. You're not cutting that much. And he's saying specifically, what are your cut points on your hearts in terms of percentage wise? Do you guys measure
us,
that, or
all of our cuts are based on taste rather than rigid numbers.
okay?
Also, to the extent there are numbers, we do keep some secrets.
Okay.
We keep very wide, so our cuts are
So
much wider than an awful lot of people.
wider cuts. Okay.
But again, that's really you're talking about a cut point in isolation of other characteristics doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, for the way we make our whiskey, it's not really the full story because our fermentations are so clean. A lot of stuff doesn't necessarily translate as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how you're making whiskey in Taiwan, it may or
Yeah.
may not have anything whatsoever to do with how we make whiskey in Chicago.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I guess your cut points basically, for you, what you're saying is indicative of how you're fermenting and what essentially the beer is coming in, right? So you're not
yeah.
So you guys are doing it by taste.
Yeah, Jason's talking about High West Campfire killer whiskey. I don't know that I'd call it similar. High West Campfire is much smokier
because it does have Nyla whiskey in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I love High West Campfire.
Yeah.
I would say that the few American whiskey might be a little closer to the Hodling.
Okay.
That's out, but even then, it's still different.
Yeah.
And few can go right next to that campfire on the bar for sure.
Yep. All right. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw it out there. Paul, do you have anything you want to add? I'm gonna plug, where people can get this stuff in a little bit. But we're at about an hour and a half here. Tell us, do you have any additional remarks or anything like that?
No, I mean, I think it's really fun to be part of the Philadelphia Whiskey Society. Obviously, we've got our sister distillery there in Blue Coat, right there in Fishtown.
And also, people in Taiwan here are seeing you too.
People in Taiwan, we're very honored. We've got a great distributor in Taiwan. They've only been on the job now for 8 months, I think. I'd have to go back and look when we actually really started over there, but it's been relatively recent.
No, it's been about 2 years.
Yeah, there's been a lot of leakage from the mainland.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, all right.
Once the whiskey market in Asia gets a little bit soft.
Okay. Because I had you guys, because when I went to visit you guys in 2018, I put on a American whiskey exhibition here in Taiwan, and we had few there, and that was when I went to the distillery, but unfortunately you weren't there. But I still went and took the tour and everything.
Yeah, sorry I missed you, but it is one guy can't be everywhere.
Yeah, no, of course. I think you were actually at a whiskey festival or something in California. I think it was somewhere.
I travel 50 to 60% of the time, so
So this is awesome. So we did talk about maybe possibly doing a single cask in the future. You do that for anybody that's interested. And for anybody in Philadelphia, we are, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in general, obviously PLCB liquor control is shut down. But you can score your alcohol from the distillers themselves. And so tell us about, how Philadelphia Distilling is able to sell few at their distillery.
So, we
This is
follow
so
the rules.
interesting. Yep. You guys follow the rules and everything. Yep.
All the rules. But the rules in Philadelphia allow distilleries in Philadelphia. Historically, distilleries in Pennsylvania can sell their products.
Yep.
And so historically, few did not have distribution through PLCB. So what we did is we took a bunch of our whiskey, proofed it to 93.0001 proof, shipped it to Philadelphia, and they dropped in a spoon of water into a tote and bottled it. So all of a sudden, the product, becomes bottled in Philadelphia. Therefore, it's a Pennsylvania product, and
voila,
Philadelphia could sell it.
Yeah.
Until whatever it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when PLCB shut down. Now they can continue selling our stuff because they're the only place in the state you can buy whiskey.
Yeah.
Today, with PLCB shut down, you can get Blue Coat gin delivered to your front door, as well as Few Spirits bourbon and Few Spirits rye.
Yeah.
Danny's on the show. She might be able to say how I know they're doing a lot of it via FedEx. And I think if you're in Philly, they might be able to. I don't know if they have trucks that deliver, but you can order a few right off of the Philadelphia Distilling website.
Danny's going around delivering it herself. Just driving around, making deliveries. It's like Uber alcohol.
You guys don't know Danny. She is freaking awesome.
Uber spirits. Yeah, I don't think I've met Danny. Maybe I did. If I did, I apologize. But I'll have to connect with her. So
when we did that event before, I think it was only Jenna came with me.
Yeah.
Was Danny there too? I don't remember.
I don't know. Yeah, I apologize if I forgot. But yeah, on the but on the few label in Philadelphia, it does actually say bottled in Philadelphia versus where the normal expressions would be bottled in Chicago, right?
Right. So if you buy, when PLCB opens up, if you go to PLCB, it'll say distilled and bottled in Evanston, Illinois.
Yeah.
Today, if you buy from Philadelphia Distilling, it'll say on the back, distilled in Evanston, Illinois, bottled in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's like a collector's item. I feel like
There's a little bit of a stupid distiller trick. Hey, this is few, but it's bottled in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
it is what it is. But yeah, it's right now. It's available certainly all over New Jersey. Few is available in 50 states, 35 countries, including Taiwan.
Yeah.
As well as mainland, Japan, Hong Kong, you name it, you can get Few there. Singapore, obviously far from you guys, but we try to get around.
And all right, and was it exactly. Benjamin says instead of Uber, it's Boozber. Love the dry jokes here. Love the dry comedy here. And so if anybody lives in Jersey or Delaware, their liquor stores haven't shut down yet, so you can always get your booze there. But in PA, you can go to get door-to-door service. You can get door-to-door service. Yeah, from Danny, maybe, possibly. And this is actually in Taiwan here. I'm going to just plug these guys, our friends here in Taiwan. This is the Spirit Selection Shop store, which actually has a few spirits sitting on the shelves there. So let me just see if I can pull up another picture here. And then and Paul, you've probably never even seen this before, have you?
No, I've never been to Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, so here's and it's actually cool because they actually sell the 375s here. You know that?
That's crazy.
The 375 bottles. Did you know you guys did that over here?
We don't even do 375s.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, maybe are they doing something bad?
I don't know where we got that because we don't do 375s. We do 200.
Let me just see here then. They're not doing something illegal, are they?
Asia, the spirits business gets a little soft.
Gets a little soft. But this is a shop. You can see the few.
Beautiful.
You see few right there on the shelf.
That's awesome.
On the table there, and where is the other picture that I just had here? Where are the three? And so they also have the the other products, the Widow Jane, your partners. I think they don't have the blue code here. I don't think anymore. Actually, blue code I think is with another group.
Could be.
There you go. There it is. I just want to show you this quick picture here. But these bottles look good. It must be from you guys.
Oh yeah, those are 200s. It's not 375. It's 200.
Oh, the 200s. Okay. All right, then.
Those are ours.
Yeah, those are yours, right? But
I don't know those though, because I don't think we ever shipped them international.
Oh, that's something. They got them.
I don't know. Maybe we did. I just forgot about it.
Yeah, but you guys don't sell to. Do you guys sell 200s here in the States?
Really, only in
the distilleries.
Really, only in the distillery. We sell some via in Illinois, primarily at Macy's.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot of distribution on them.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
yeah, Benjamin's got pocket size, and they're the great size. They go right in your back pocket perfectly.
yeah.
Not that I would ever condone sneaking anything into, say, for example, a movie theater. That would be wrong. I would never do that. Don't ever put one of those in your back pocket to go into the movie. Not ever. Don't do that.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
That would be bad.
All right. But this I'm drinking here the one of the original batches. So this is actually from the 15 gallons, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So very rich. I'm also getting a lot of fruitiness as well. The oak influence is definitely there, but it's a pleasant oak influence, and I like oak actually. And very great whiskey, pleasant, fruity, just a little touch of brown sugar there. Clean mouth feel, slight, light tannins here that I enjoy. And the spirits you've gotten even better, I think. And this is just a good example of historically, as what you guys are doing in the beginning. And I think it's even clean. And this is even a straight whiskey. Somebody did ask about that earlier. You guys were only maturing these for less than 2 years back then.
We've been straight for a long time, but we did just recently relabel everything. We got brand new glass bottles.
Okay.
And relabeled, and now so the labels now say straight on them.
Okay.
But historically, like that bottle that's in front of you may or may not have been straight. I don't remember.
Okay. Gotcha.
I don't like age statements, and so I refuse to use straight.
But regardless of if it was 2+ years or more, still very great whiskey. And just from talking to Paul, it's because of the process. It's because of the respect for the process and respect for the fermentation and everything that goes into it, and the distilling and whatnot. And it was a pleasure, Paul. Thank you very much for your time here. It's 10:30 exactly, so that's pretty much our cutoff point here today. Learned a bunch. I learned a lot, and really congratulations again on winning, World Whisky Awards. Really looking forward to the future of American craft spirits and American craft whiskey personally. And I'm really looking forward to some of these experimental stuff that you guys have coming out. Madeira Rye sounds awesome. And hopefully for my friends in Philadelphia, maybe we'll be able to grab a single cast at some point, and then me and Paul will be talking more offline about that.
Yep. Thanks for having me on. Cheers, everybody. Have a great quarantine.
All right. Yep. And see you guys next time. Thanks again for joining, and good night. And this is my nightcap or my morning cap here because I'm in Taiwan, but nightcap for you guys. And we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, Paul. Take care.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.